The WNBA playoffs are here, and the Indiana Fever just sent a message so loud. The entire league felt it. Aliyah Boston, the unstoppable force in the paint, turned the first-round showdown against the Atlanta Dream into her personal showcase. She didn't just play, she dominated. We're talking monster rebounds, silky post moves, blocks that shook the arena, and leadership that proved why she's not just a rising star. She's the anchor of this Fever team. But this game wasn't just about stats. It was about attitude. Aliyah Boston didn't hold back. She flexed. She stared down defenders. She carried her teammates on both ends of the floor, and she made sure Atlanta knew who runs the paint. The Fever didn't squeak by. They didn't survive. They demolished the Dream. And now, the entire playoff picture looks different. So how did Boston and the Fever completely dismantle Atlanta? What moments had fans on their feet, screaming at their TVs? And why does this win feel like the beginning of something even bigger for Indiana? Tonight, we break it all down, chapter by chapter. Let's dive in. The playoff atmosphere. Playoff basketball in Indiana is different. From the moment fans packed the arena, you could feel it. Fever jerseys, homemade signs, chants of "Let's go Fever," echoing through the stands. This wasn't just a game, it was a historic moment. For years, Indiana has been waiting for this. The Caitlin Clark effect brought the spotlight. But now, it was time to show the Fever weren't just hype. The Atlanta Dream walked into hostile territory. And from the tip-off, you could tell the Fever were locked in. Every rebound, every hustle play, every defensive stop sent the crowd into a frenzy. This was playoff energy at its peak, and Aliyah Boston fed off it like fuel. Boston's statements start. Aliyah Boston didn't waste time sending a message. On the very first possession, she backed down her defender, spun baseline, and finished with power at the rim. The crowd erupted. Next trip down, rebound, put back, and one. Within minutes, Boston had established herself as the dominant force on the court. Atlanta's front court looked helpless. Double teams didn't work. Bodying her up didn't work. By the end of the first quarter, Boston already had double-digit points and a handful of boards. She wasn't just scoring, she was setting the tone. Her intensity was contagious. Teammates fed off her energy, diving for loose balls, pushing the tempo, and running through Atlanta's defense like it wasn't there. This wasn't just a good start. It was a statement. Aliyah Boston had arrived to take over the playoffs. Caitlin Clark's role. Even though Aliyah Boston was the star of the night, you can't overlook Caitlin Clark's presence. Clark, the rookie phenom, drew the Dream's defensive attention from the jump. Traps, double teams, defenders picking her up full court. They tried everything to slow her down. But that's exactly what opened things up for Boston. Every time Atlanta keyed in on Clark, Boston slipped into the paint, ready to feast. And Clark's vision made it even deadlier. No-look passes, pocket feeds, lobs over defenders. She found Boston in perfect spots all night. It wasn't just about scoring. Clark's energy, her leadership, and her constant communication with Boston kept the Fever firing on all cylinders. This duo isn't just dangerous. They're unstoppable when they're clicking. And against Atlanta, they were in sync like never before. Defensive domination. While Boston's offense lit up the scoreboard, her defense was just as terrifying. Every time Atlanta tried to attack the rim, Boston was waiting. She swatted shots left and right, altering countless others. Guards thought twice before driving, and Big struggled to get comfortable in the paint. But it wasn't just blocks. Boston's footwork, positioning, and ability to shut down pick-and-rolls completely neutralized the Dream's offense. Her defensive intensity spread to the rest of the Fever. Lexi Hull hounded guards on the perimeter. Kelsey Mitchell fought through screens. The entire team locked in. Atlanta's offense? Stagnant. Desperate. By halftime, the Dream were frustrated, settling for contested jumpers and praying for whistles that never came. Aliyah Boston wasn't just dominating offensively. She was controlling every inch of the floor defensively. Lexi Hull's hustle. While Boston was the star, Lexi Hull made sure the Fever never lost momentum. Hull's hustle plays were everywhere. Crashing the boards, diving on the floor for loose balls, and knocking down clutch threes when the defense sagged. Her energy was relentless. Every time Atlanta tried to swing momentum, Hull answered. Corner three here, a steal and score there. And defensively, she was a nightmare for Atlanta's guards. Aggressive, disciplined, and fearless. She might not have the headlines of Clark or Boston, but Hull's grit was the glue holding the Fever together. Fans noticed too. Chants of Lexi, Lexi, echoed after her biggest plays. It was a reminder that this Fever team isn't just one or two stars. They're a squad built to fight, and Hull is one of their toughest soldiers. The turning point. Midway through the third quarter, Atlanta tried to make a push. They hit back-to-back threes, cut the lead to single digits, and looked like they might claw their way back. But Aliyah Boston shut that down immediately. On the very next possession, she muscled her way into the paint, scored through a foul, and screamed as the arena exploded. That play sparked a Fever run. Clark nailed a deep three. Hull came up with a steal. Mitchell knocked down a jumper. In just a few minutes, the lead ballooned back to double digits. The dream looked deflated. The Fever looked unstoppable. That was the moment the game shifted for good. Boston's fire lit the spark, and the Fever never looked back. Atlanta's collapse. For the Dream, it was a nightmare. Nothing they tried worked. Double-teaming Boston left shooters wide open. Sagging off Clark was suicide. Playing physical only put them in foul trouble. Their offense sputtered. Turnovers piled up. Frustration boiled over. By the fourth quarter, you could see it in their body language, heads down, hands on hips, players yelling at each other. Meanwhile, the Fever looked loose, confident, and hungry. Every basket felt like a dagger. Every defensive stop was another nail in the coffin. The final minutes weren't about surviving. They were about domination. Atlanta wasn't just beaten. They were broken. Boston's career night. When the dust settled, Aliyah Boston's stat line was jaw-dropping. Points? Sky high. Rebounds? Dominant. Blocks? Ruthless. Efficiency? Off the charts. But beyond the numbers, it was the way she controlled the game that stood out. She was vocal, directing teammates, calming huddles, and keeping the energy high. Post-game, when asked about her performance, Boston simply smiled and said, "I told you, we're built for this." That confidence, that swagger, was exactly what Indiana needed. For years, Boston has been called the future of the franchise. Against Atlanta, she proved she's also the present. This wasn't just a playoff win. It was Aliyah Boston's official arrival as one of the league's most unstoppable forces. Caitlin Clark's celebration. Even though she wasn't the headline, Caitlin Clark couldn't stop smiling after the game. Every big Boston play had Clark on her feet, clapping, hyping up her teammate. Their bond was on full display, superstar to superstar, feeding off each other's energy. Clark said post-game, "Aliyah's the best. She carried us tonight, and we followed her lead." That humility, that team-first mentality, is why this duo works. Clark doesn't need to dominate every night. She knows Boston is just as dangerous, and she's more than happy to let her shine. It's rare to see two young stars complement each other so perfectly, and if they keep building this chemistry, the Fever aren't just playoff contenders. They're championship contenders. What this win means: this win wasn't just a victory, it was a statement. The Fever didn't squeak past the Dream. They dismantled them. They showed the league that Indiana isn't just here to participate in the playoffs. They're here to take over. Aliyah Boston's dominance, Caitlin Clark's leadership, and the role players' hustle proved this is a complete team. And the message to the rest of the WNBA is clear. If you underestimate the Fever, you'll regret it. Indiana basketball is back. And it's built on Aliyah Boston's unstoppable presence in the paint and Caitlin Clark's generational shooting and vision. This isn't just the future. This is happening right now. So here's the bottom line. Aliyah Boston didn't just play well. She didn't just dominate. She made a statement. The Indiana Fever crushed the Atlanta Dream in the playoffs. And they did it by unleashing their star center at her absolute peak. Boston owned the paint. Clark kept the offense flowing. Hull, Mitchell, and the rest of the squad filled every gap. This wasn't luck. This was preparation. This was hunger. This was domination. Now, the Fever move forward with momentum, and the entire WNBA has been put on notice. Aliyah Boston isn't holding back anymore. And with Caitlin Clark by her side, the sky is the limit. But now we want to hear from you. Backhand index pointing right, was this the most dominant performance of Aliyah Boston's career? Backhand index pointing right, can the Fever keep this up all the way to a championship run? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button if you're riding with Indiana, and don't forget to subscribe for more playoff fire.